The Mandarin Oriental's penthouse ballroom glittered with Manhattan's finest as I stood quietly in the corner, sipping club soda, my presence barely acknowledged among my high-powered family. The annual Morrison family gala was as much about showcasing success as it was about hierarchy. My siblings, Thomas and Victoria, basked in the spotlight as our parents beamed with pride. Meanwhile, Sarah Morrison remained an afterthought. Dressed in a simple black suit that everyone assumed was from a department store, it wasn't. It was a custom chiton, discreetly valued at over $20,000. I played my role perfectly, the family failure, another exciting year of being ordinary. Sarah, Thomas sneered, flashing his Peck Fight watch with theatrical pride. Though I suppose someone has to balance out the family average, he had no idea, of course. No idea that his wildly successful hedge fund had actually been acquired 2 years ago by a shell company owned by me. That every trade he bragged about at Thanksgiving was executed using my software. That I, the invisible Morrison, had quietly built a $14 billion empire from behind a laptop. While Thomas and Victoria chased status and praise, I built Phoenix Enterprises, a tech and investment empire that now held assets in quantum computing, artificial intelligence, financial infrastructure, and stealth acquisitions around the world. My phone buzzed discreetly. I checked it under the table. Forbes 500 list final. Phoenix Enterprises confirmed at number 3. Your CEO profile goes live at 8:30 p.m. I glanced at the antique ballroom clock. 7:45 p.m. in just 45 minutes. Everything would change. Victoria's voice sliced through the din. Sarah, at least try to mingle. I suppose with your, what do you call it again, online shop? She chuckled lightly, unaware that her own luxury brand consulting firm had been purchased by my company the previous year. Every smart strategy she bragged about in boardrooms came from a team she didn't even know worked for me. I'm just keeping to myself, I replied softly, watching her twirl in her designer gown bought with profits from my platform. Her laugh was the same one I remembered from childhood, dismissive, condescending, self-satisfied. I scanned the room. My father stood at the center of the main table, gesturing animatedly to a circle of Wall Street power players, no doubt boasting about how Thomas had grown the family investment firm and how Victoria had locked in a new elite client, about how their youngest daughter was still figuring things out in the digital world. They never asked what I did. They never cared to know. I was the family mystery they comfortably ignored. Miss Morrison, a voice said discreetly behind me. It was my chief operations officer, cleverly disguised as a waiter. Everything is in position. Forbes has confirmed the announcement will hit the screens on cue. Market alerts will follow. Security is active. I gave a subtle nod. Showtime was nearing. The ballroom glowed under crystal chandeliers, old money gleaming beside new ambition. I could feel the anticipation, though none of them had the faintest clue what was coming. My father had insisted on installing massive LED screens on every wall of the ballroom to display breaking financial news throughout the party. It was meant to underscore his influence. Tonight, it would do just that, but not in the way he expected. There's my quiet daughter. My mother's voice rang out. Sarah, darling, couldn't you have made more of an effort tonight? The CEO of Goldman Sachs is here, and you're standing in corners again. I'm comfortable as I am, I said politely. As always, I took the seat farthest from the center during the annual family photo session. That was my assigned place, quiet, respectful, and mostly forgotten. 8:15 p.m. The MC approached the mic, tapping it for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, as requested by our host, Mr. Morrison, please direct your attention to the screens. It's time for the annual Forbes 500 announcement. Champagne flutes clinked. Conversations paused. My father stood, clearly expecting to see his firm's modest rise on the list, maybe somewhere in the top 200. He raised his glass proudly, but what filled the screen wasn't his company. Breaking, Phoenix Enterprises ranks number 3 on Fortune 500. Mysterious CEO revealed as Sarah Morrison. Wall Street stunned by tech prodigy's $14 billion empire. A gasp swept through the room. My father's champagne glass froze midair. He stared at the screens, blinking, confused. Thomas turned pale. Victoria's eyes darted to me, then to the screen, then back to me. I stepped forward, my voice calm, my spine straight for the first time in years. Dad, I said into the stunned silence, I believe we need to talk about what it really means to be a nobody. The silence that followed was deeper than I expected. You could hear the soft hum of the projectors, the clinking of ice in forgotten glasses. But I wasn't finished, not yet. The screens continued to flash new headlines. Sarah Morrison, from nobody to Fortune 500 titan. Phoenix Enterprises revealed, a decade of stealth acquisitions. Wall Street reacts to hidden tech giants' emergence. Thomas was the first to stammer. This is impossible. Phoenix Enterprises is the company that's been shaking up AI and quantum. They're the ones who bought out your hedge fund's entire trading platform last year? I said gently, finishing the sentence for him. Yes, that was me. Thomas stumbled back a step, still clutching his overpriced watch as if it could anchor him in reality. You bought my trading platform? He repeated, voice cracking. That was you? I nodded calmly. Phoenix Enterprises acquired it, under a subsidiary. You probably never read the fine print. Every trade you've made in the last 2 years has run on my technology. He looked down at his phone, swiping frantically. The realization was written all over his face. His funds, record-setting returns, all powered by algorithms I developed years ago, the same ones he dismissed as Sarah's silly code during our last family dinner. Across the ballroom, my mother swayed slightly, her manicured fingers tightening on her glass of wine. This can't be. You live in a Brooklyn walk-up. You wear sneakers to family events. The Brooklyn walk-up? I smiled. It's actually the top 3 floors of a building I own. I bought it 3 years ago, just before the neighborhood turned. The sneakers? Custom Italian mother, limited edition, comfortable and efficient, much like the rest of my company. Victoria was now frozen, her expression shifting rapidly between disbelief and denial. But the consulting firm, my clients, I just signed 2 luxury conglomerates last week, which operate under Phoenix shell companies, I said gently. Your biggest clients? They've been getting your strategies straight from my executive team. I've been feeding them data to validate our internal forecasting systems. You've been test driving my AI without even knowing it. Her eyes widened. That can't be. It is, I said. That branding dashboard you rave about? My code. The predictive analytics you charge 6 figures for? Also mine. My father gripped the edge of the table, still staring at the screen as if sheer willpower could force it to show a different name. Sarah, this is absurd. Phoenix Enterprises, this tech empire, how could you possibly? While you were teaching Thomas to play the market and Victoria to charm clients, I said softly, I was learning how to build something that would outlast all of you. A wave of stunned murmuring rippled through the room. The MC was frozen. At the podium, the media crew, originally hired to document a routine birthday party, were now filming a financial coup. Their cameras slowly panned across the stunned faces of Manhattan's elite. I nodded to my COO, still dressed like a hotel server. She stepped forward, distributing custom tablets to key figures throughout the ballroom. You'll find summaries of Phoenix's holdings, subsidiaries, and global partnerships, I explained, watching their expressions shift from confusion to astonishment. Real estate, fintech, AI development, cloud infrastructure. Every deal, every move, every billion-dollar milestone executed while I was being told to grow up and find a real job. You've been lying to us, my father finally said, voice low and shaking. You've been lying to your family. No, I said, meeting his eyes. I showed you exactly what you wanted to see. You decided I was a nobody. You dismissed me at every turn. So I let you. While you measured success in boardroom applause, I measured it in silent acquisitions and infrastructure dominance. While you chased headlines, I built the platforms those headlines run on. The screens updated again, breaking. Sarah Morrison's Phoenix Enterprises acquires Morgan Stanley in landmark deal. The color drained from Thomas's face. Morgan Stanley? But they're our biggest client. I corrected. As of 20 minutes ago, they're ours. We completed the acquisition through a shadow negotiation last month. I considered telling you, but then I remembered how fond you were of telling me I didn't understand how real business worked. Reporters gasped. Photographers surged forward, capturing the scene, a family undone by the daughter they'd underestimated. My mother sank into her seat, pearls trembling against her chest. But why tonight? Someone asked. Why reveal all this now? Because tonight's the perfect metaphor, I replied. Another birthday, another year of polite humiliation, another evening of being sidelined while everyone else got praised for their minor victories. I figured it was time you all saw the scoreboard. Victoria stepped forward, her voice unsteady. Sarah, wait, this changes everything. All those things I said, all the times I mocked me, told me I'd regret skipping family firm meetings, laughed about my little online hobby. I raised a brow. You were doing what everyone else was. You believed what you wanted to believe, that I was insignificant, that I didn't belong at the table. But you forgot something. She blinked. What? I built the table. My father's jaw clenched. You'll need allies if you want to keep this empire standing. You can't alienate your own blood. I stared at him a long moment. You mean like the blood that told me to take a junior assistant role at Victoria's firm? Or the blood that told Forbes last year I was the family disappointment? I think I've done just fine without your validation. A fresh headline lit up the screens. Sarah Morrison declared youngest self-made female CEO in top 5 Fortune 500. Net worth exceeds $28 billion. I watched the numbers scroll across the display, my real-time stock values, my holdings, my financial reach, and then looked at my family again. Still stunned, still silent. You asked me once, Dad, I said quietly, what I wanted to do with my life. And I told you, I want to build something that changes the world. He shook his head in disbelief. And I told you that was naive. I smiled. You were wrong. The ballroom had transformed into a live wire of stunned whispers and darting glances. Even the most composed guests, billionaire CEOs, financiers, and old money aristocrats, looked like they'd just witnessed a corporate thunderclap. I glanced at my COO, who gave me a small nod. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Victoria was still frozen, her mouth opening and closing as if trying to catch up with the new reality. Thomas had backed away toward the bar, clutching his phone and likely texting his fund's legal team, trying to figure out how much of his success was actually his. And my father. He had finally sunk into his chair at the head table, staring at the news ticker with a haunted look. Miss Morrison, one of the Forbes reporters, finally spoke up, her voice tentative but professional. You've kept your identity hidden while building one of the most powerful tech companies in the world. Why now? Why reveal it all tonight? I stepped forward, calm and composed, the stage now mine. Because I'm tired of watching brilliance dismissed because it doesn't wear the right suit or speak the right way. I've been underestimated by my family, my peers, and the industry. And I've used that invisibility to build something extraordinary. I turned toward the crowd, locking eyes with each of the guests. Tonight, you're not just celebrating my father's birthday. You're witnessing a reset in how power works. From now on, the narrative belongs to those you've overlooked. The screens shifted again, now displaying a map of Phoenix Enterprises' influence, global data centers, infrastructure assets, fintech partnerships, and stealth acquisitions spread across 5 continents. Gasps filled the room. One screen showed the real-time stock price of Phoenix Enterprises climbing steadily. Another showed my name climbing the global wealth rankings, leapfrogging legacy moguls who had spent decades building their fortunes. Thomas blurted out, "You can't just embarrass us like this. Sarah, there are investors here. Important people." I turned to him slowly. Those investors? They're already invested in me. Some through your fund, some directly through Phoenix. Most just discovered they've been relying on my infrastructure for years. Embarrassing? No, Thomas. This is clarity. Brutal, overdue clarity. A few guests began clapping. Others looked on, unsure whether to cheer or call their attorneys. Victoria stepped forward, her voice brittle. You always wanted to outshine us, didn't you? Is that what this is about? Jealousy? I raised an eyebrow. Victoria, I've been signing your paychecks through shell entities for years. Your biggest client, the one who made your firm's reputation? That was me. My team wrote your strategy briefs. I didn't want to outshine you. I wanted to see how long it would take you to realize the light wasn't even yours. My mother stood abruptly, knocking over her champagne flute. You humiliated your family, she hissed. You've destroyed everything your father built. I met her eyes calmly. I didn't destroy anything. I just revealed how fragile it always was. You called me a failure because I didn't wear the right title or work in the family firm. Meanwhile, I built something that your firm now depends on to function. My COO handed her a leather-bound portfolio. My mother flipped it open, her eyes scanning the summary of every Morrison financial system that ran on Phoenix AI. The legal notices of contract termination. The signed Morgan Stanley acquisition documents. She sat down slowly, her face drained of color. Then the MC returned to the microphone. voice trembling slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, the latest update just came in. Phoenix Enterprises valuation has now surpassed $320 billion. Miss Sarah Morrison is now ranked fourth wealthiest person in the United States. The ballroom erupted in gasps again. I took a breath and stepped forward. Now that I have your attention, there are a few changes Phoenix Enterprises will be making effective immediately. I motioned to my security team, no longer disguised as staff, who began placing sealed envelopes in front of the board members of Morrison Financial seated at various tables. First, I said, all Morrison family businesses will lose access to Phoenix proprietary platforms at midnight. That includes data analytics, trading algorithms, and AI support. My father shot up. You can't. I can, I said sharply. And I have. He opened his envelope. His face paled as he scanned the termination clause and read the valuation impact statement. The loss of Phoenix Technology would wipe 68% off Morrison Financial's valuation overnight. Second, I continued, I am instituting Phoenix's new legacy audit program and internal review of companies built on nepotism, fraud, and exploitation. Morrison Financial will be its pilot subject. The media surged forward, recording every word. I turned back to the crowd. For years, I've been told that I don't belong, that I'm not what success looks like. I was measured against siblings who inherited titles and connections, while I coded in the dark. But here's the truth. The future doesn't belong to those who inherit power. It belongs to those who build it. There was silence, and then applause. It started quietly, first from the younger guests, the ones who recognized what this meant, then from the reporters who knew they were capturing history. Then others joined, a rising wave of appreciation, not just for my success, but for the long-hidden brilliance finally brought into the light. Victoria looked away. Thomas crumbled into a chair. My mother stared at the floor. My father simply closed his eyes. The applause swelled around me, and I let it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just present, I was undeniable. The applause had faded, but the tremors it left behind were still rattling through the room. My father was silent now, his once commanding presence reduced to a man watching everything he believed about power unravel. Morrison Financial was no longer the empire, it was an aging relic, suddenly obsolete. I turned my attention to the media wall, where the screens flickered with headlines updating in real time. Morrison family legacy crumbles as disowned daughter surfaces as tech billionaire. Phoenix Enterprises to lead global AI governance summit. From family reject to Wall Street powerhouse. The Sarah Morrison revelation. My COO approached quietly. Miss Morrison, he said, Morgan Stanley's executive board has requested a meeting at your convenience. They've officially confirmed the acquisition. It's done. I nodded, then glanced at my father. Let's schedule it after dinner, I said coolly. I wouldn't want to miss dessert. It's chocolate souffle. I own the bakery. Thomas, who had been hyperventilating quietly in a chair, suddenly stood. You manipulated us all, he accused, his voice cracking. This was your plan from the beginning. No, I replied. My plan was to succeed. You simply handed me the fuel with every insult, every dismissal, every time you laughed when I brought up silly tech ideas. I paused, then added with a shrug, but if you want to call that manipulation, go ahead. The guests, most of whom had seen my family dismiss me year after year, watched with a mix of awe and discomfort. Some were already whispering about opportunities to partner with Phoenix. Others stared at the screens like they were trying to decode how they had missed it all. A voice cut through the tension. Miss Morrison, a man said respectfully, stepping forward from the crowd. It was Gerald Langston, chairman of the Global Economic Forum. I had no idea. You were the one behind the Quantum Nexus protocol? I gave a small nod. Yes, my team built it under Project Shadowlight, one of our stealth initiatives. Langston's eyes widened. That's remarkable. We've been modeling national economies on that platform. I smiled. Good to know it's working. His tone shifted, formal and direct. We'd like you to keynote the summit in Geneva next month. Global leaders need to hear from you directly. I saw my father flinch as Langston spoke. The kind of invitation he'd chased his entire career now handed to his daughter, the one he told to stay in her lane. I'll be there, I replied. Just then, a burst of activity broke out near the media screens. Reporters were yelling over each other as Bloomberg flashed a red banner across the feed. Breaking. Phoenix Enterprises surpasses Amazon, Microsoft in market cap. Sarah Morrison becomes youngest woman to top global billionaire list. My mother stood shakily. Sarah, please, she said, voice wavering. All this, it's not who we are. We're a family. We made mistakes, yes, but we're still your parents. I stared at her for a long moment. You're right, you're my parents. But family isn't just about blood. It's about belief. And not once in 10 years did any of you believe in me. Her eyes filled with tears. We didn't understand, no. You didn't try to, I interrupted. And you still don't. You think this is about revenge. It's not. It's about recognition. About finally being seen as more than the girl in the corner with the laptop. Victoria, now pale and visibly sweating, reached for her clutch. I should go, she murmured. There's work to be done. I stepped closer, blocking her exit. You're right, there is work to be done, and it starts with accountability. I handed her a small envelope. Inside is your firm's termination from all Phoenix Analytics services, effective immediately. Good luck running market predictions with no predictive engine. Her hand trembled as she took it. Thomas was staring blankly at his phone. I can't even access my dashboard, he whispered. It's locked out, of course. It is, I said calmly. Your hedge fund has 30 days to migrate off our tech stack. I suggest you start now. That is, unless you'd prefer to liquidate. He didn't respond. I turned back to the guests. Some of you here tonight have built your lives and fortunes on systems you never understood. You mocked the people who built them. Well, those days are over. There were murmurs of agreement from the crowd. Several executives nodded solemnly. The room's power balance had shifted and everyone knew it. My security lead approached with a quiet murmur. Helicopters inbound. Manhattan rooftop pad ETA. 6 minutes. I nodded. Have the Rolls meet us outside. We'll head straight to Phoenix Tower after the interview. Then, turning to my family one last time, I said, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. I'm done waiting for your approval. Tonight, I no longer need your acknowledgement. My father rose slowly from his chair. His hands were trembling. You were always brilliant, he said, voice heavy. We didn't know how to handle it. I gave him a small smile. That's the thing about brilliance, Dad. You don't handle it. You respect it. He nodded slowly, as if something inside him had finally broken free. As the ballroom doors opened and my team began to escort me out, I paused for one final look. The same chandeliers I used to stare up at from the shadows now glinted off the gold-plated screens bearing my name. The girl they had all ignored had just taken control of the world they once ruled, and I hadn't even turned 30 yet. The warm Manhattan air wrapped around me as I stepped out of the ballroom and into the cool, glass-covered entrance where my security team stood flanking the Rolls-Royce. The hotel valet, who earlier hadn't even glanced at me, now snapped to attention. He'd clearly seen the news alerts flashing across every phone in the lobby. Good evening, Miss Morrison, he said with reverent precision as he opened the car door. Thank you, I replied, slipping into the leather seat as photographers snapped away. The moment the door closed, silence cocooned me. Just for a moment, I let myself really breathe. 10 years of silence. 10 years of being the ignored daughter, the joke of the Morrison family, the one who didn't belong in boardrooms or family photos. And now, I had reshaped the entire financial world and they had no choice but to acknowledge it. ETA to Phoenix Tower, 9 minutes, my driver informed me. Plenty of time, I murmured. Let's take Broadway. Outside the tinted windows, the city flashed by giant digital billboards displaying headlines in real time. Sarah Morrison redefines Wall Street. From disappointment to dominance, the Phoenix rise. Morrison family overshadowed by daughter's tech empire. My phone buzzed again. A message from Mrs. Chin, my high school computer science teacher and now senior VP of AI architecture at Phoenix. Coding academies approved in 42 cities. First sight, your old school. I smiled, fingers gliding over the screen as I typed back. Let's change the future one overlooked genius at a time. The car slowed as we approached Phoenix Tower, my company's sleek glass monolith that overlooked Wall Street itself. Reporters were already gathered outside, cordoned behind velvet ropes. Cameras flashed. Helicopters hovered above, catching aerial shots of what had become the most unexpected power shift in recent history. My assistant met me at the door, walking briskly beside me. CNBC will broadcast live in 3 minutes. We've confirmed. Bloomberg, Financial Times, and The Economist for tomorrow morning. Also, your Forbes cover photo just dropped. It's dominating social media. I'm sure my mother will love that, I said dryly. As I passed through the lobby, dozens of Phoenix employees rose from their desks to applaud. Some of them had worked with me for years, knowing only the name Zim on internal memos. Now they knew who I was. And now, so did the world. The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor. Behind the glass windows, the New York Stock Exchange glittered under floodlights. The city pulsed beneath us, unaware that nearly every major transaction now ran through systems we had created. I stepped into the broadcast studio, a temporary setup in my office built overnight. 2 minutes to air, the producer said. The anchor leaned in. You're a sensation, Sarah. The world wants to know why. Reveal yourself now. I smiled calmly, because I was never hiding. I was just building. And now that the foundation is unshakable, it's time to lead. He nodded. Ready when you are. The red light blinked on. Good evening, I said to the camera, my voice steady and strong. I'm Sarah Morrison, founder and CEO of Phoenix Enterprises. Tonight, I stand before you not just as a tech executive, but as proof that sometimes the world's biggest shifts come from the people you overlook. The ones labeled nobodies, the ones underestimated, the ones who sit quietly at the edge of the room while everyone else speaks over them. I paused, letting the weight of it settle. For years, I was told I wasn't a real businesswoman because I didn't run an old school firm. That coding wasn't a serious career. That building something from a laptop in a small Brooklyn apartment could never amount to real success. And yet, here we are. The studio remained silent, the anchor stunned. My team and I built an empire. In the shadows, not out of secrecy, but out of necessity. Because when no one believes in you, it gives you the freedom to build without limits. We acquired quietly, innovated relentlessly, and listened to no one who told us it couldn't be done. The live ticker on the screen updated in real time. Phoenix Enterprises market cap, $1.4 trillion. Sarah Morrison net worth, $82 billion. To every girl who's ever been told she's just not cut out for this world, to every outsider who was laughed at, dismissed, silenced, know this. Your silence is not weakness. It is preparation. One day, you'll walk into the very room that tried to keep you out and you'll own the building. The red light blinked off. The anchor was speechless. Then he finally said, that may be the most powerful opening interview we've ever aired. Good, I replied. Now let's talk about what comes next. As I left the studio, my team gathered. My CFO handed me a folder. We've just finalized acquisition of another hedge fund. Ironically, Thomas's. I arched an eyebrow. Did he call it a hostile takeover? No, he called it karma. I chuckled, opening the folder. The front page read, Phoenix acquires Morrison Financial's remaining assets. Founding family. Removed from all boards. Downstairs, the media was still buzzing. Outside, my helicopter waited once more. But I wasn't in a rush anymore. This time, they weren't trying to dismiss me. This time, they were trying to catch up. And they never would. Because the girl they called a nobody had just become the standard by which they'd measure success forever.